Welcome back to Cure of the Common Game. Today, deck number 759, we're going to talk about Trelasarra, the Moon Dancer. Of course the Moon Dancer has to be Celestia. Green and white for a 2/2 Elf Cleric. Don't worry, not an elf deck. Whenever you gain life, put a 1/1 counter on Trelasarra and scry 1. That's pretty good. The way she's worded, we don't care how much life we're gaining. We would prefer small bursts because they're typically cheaper, and they trigger. If you gain 5 life for this particular deck, you want to gain 1 life 5 times more than you would want to gain 5 life 1 time. So, with that in mind, I've got this broke out into card types because most of the deck is going to rotate around life gain. So let's look at, I don't know, what do you think? Creatures first? Let's do some creatures. We have Soul's Attendant, Soul Warden, Soul's Attendant, and Essence Warden. 3 versions of pretty much the same card, but they all trigger individually, so that's that many counters. We have Speaker of the Heavens. Lifelink, I did put a premium on that ability, and then, if we happen to have 7 more life than your starting total, you can start making 4/4s. Secure Tribe Elder and Llanowar Elf just in there for ramp. Suture Priest is another one of the Soul Sisters, as well as Daxos. Kasali Pride Mage, I wanted a creature version of the Disenchant because it triggered all of those, creature comes into play things. So, and I'm still running the others. I just wanted another one. Core Firewalker, if anybody decides to play red. Scavenging Ooze can gain you life when you exile creatures. Johnny's Pride Mage is really good on those small little life bursts. Yeah. By the way, that counter's not optional now. This is a War of the Spark version. All the previous versions are printed as you may, but to make it easier on the digital games, they took out the may part, and you just want to do it because their philosophy was it's easier for digital programming, and there's very few times where people don't want to do it. Sylvan Shepherd, die rolling. We're gonna gain at least 1 life, right? At least. Celestial Unicorn, gain life, put a counter on it. Knight of Autumn. I like the 3 different options here. You can have your 4/3, or you can gain 4 life. Honor Troll from Strixhaven, getting the if you would gain life, gain that much plus 1 life instead. Now there are a bunch of versions of this. There's the Loxodon thing way back. If you would gain life, gain double. I don't have any more of those, but yeah, that's a great card to put in there. Lathel, the Bounteous Dawn. If you gained life this turn, distribute up to that many counters among any other of the creatures. That many counters. So that's where your big life burst happens, Twinborn Muse is just so we don't get hit. Swag Tusk. You gain 5, he leaves behind a 3/3. This is not a bad card. Loxodon Hierarch. The Hierarch is good coming and going. You're going to gain the 4 life, and you can ditch it to regenerate your team from a board wipe, as long as it, allows regeneration. Now, Ezra Chandler, creature spells you cast cost X less to cast, where X is the amount of life you gained this turn. That's not bad, and, tap, gain 2 life is pretty good, too. And then we have Oracle of Nexters, which is a stream of life on a body. You can stream a life every turn if that's what you want to do. And that's probably what I want to do. We've only got 2 Planeswalkers, so we'll do them next. Nissa, Nature's Artisan, not one of the bigger Nissas. The Planeswalker decks, what they used to call those. And, you know, +3 to gain 3 life, that's, you know, if nothing else, yeah. And then we have a Johnny, Strength of the Pride. Yep. Number of creatures plus a number of walkers, so it's probably a number of creatures. And then if you have 15, at least 15 life more than your starting life total, exile Johnny and all artifacts and creatures your opponents control. That's pretty good. In this specific life gain deck, Johnny could end up being a 4-mana sorcery that just exiles all the things. I mean, you know, because it costs 0. Just play him and do it. Let's look at our artifacts. Most of these are mana. You know, Copper Mirror, Selesnya Signet, Prismatic Lens, Wildfield Border Post, Prismatic Talisman, Selesnya Locket, and Keyrune. But we do also have the Whisper Silk Cloak and the Behemoth Sledge. You know, gaining that life. Enchantments. I love the classes. Cleric class, if you would gain life, you gain that much +1. Pretty good. And then the life gain just steadily goes down the card. I mean, it's good at all phases. We have Druid class. Whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control, gain 1 life. That's those small life bursts we were talking about. And, right, Dawn of Hope. Whenever you gain life, you can pay 2. If you do, draw a card. And then for 4 mana, you just start making life-linking soldiers. 4 mana colon, so you can do this at any time. Create blockers, you know. Rites of Flourishing, of course, that card draw. Armadillo Cloak. And then Faith Fetters, because, you know, I love that it's enchanted permanent and the activated abilities can't be used. That works against a lot of stuff, you know, staffs and whatever you need. And that foil is just, I mean, it's beautiful. It's beautiful. Sorcery. Let's do some sorceries. Of course, our Rampant Growth, Cultivate, Explosive Vegetation, and Ranger's Path all in there for ramp. Because we do got some big things, you know. The Dawn Glow Infusion is, now, this gets missed a lot. You gain X life if green was spent to play, and X life if white was spent to play. You do both if both colors were. So this is a double stream of life. Really, really kind of like it. Festival of Troken. Now, we don't normally get this rate. Most of the Portal Age cards were, some of them were overcasted to what wasn't reprints, but this one, 2 life per creature. That card exists, but it's like 3 or 4 mana. This is 1. Yes, it's sorcery speed, but and it's just your creatures, but still, that's a good rate. Approach the Second Sun. It's a big old chunk of life at 7 life, and it's also a good alternate win condition, so that's not bad either. And then, you know, we got Stormherd because I'm that guy. I didn't make Pegasus tokens because I didn't want to. Yeah. Now we're going to go to instants. Got to have our fog because, you know, sometimes it's necessary. Disenchant, Return to Nature. Tribute to the Wild is actually a pretty good removal spell, I feel like. Sundering Growth. Man, we are getting rid of artifacts and enchantments, right? Nature's Chant. I mean, getting them gone. Crows and Grip. Then we got Afterlife. Pledge of Unity is a pretty decent instant. Put a 1/1 counter on your team, and then you gain a life for, you know. Weather the Storm. Now, I don't know how good a Storm gain life card is. I'm going to give it a try. But there again, there are times when your opponents get it in these little spell wars, and there's 3 or 4 spells been cast that turn, so why not, right? And the way Storm works, you're not gaining 9 life. You're gaining 3 life 3 times. So each one of those will trigger. Wrap in Vigor is an anti-wrath card that doesn't see a lot of play. You just regen your team. Song of Inspiration. Choose 2 target permanent cards in your graveyard. You roll a d20 and add the total value of those cards. So you get a modifier. You return them to your hand, or you return them to your hand and gain a life equal to their mana value. So that's pretty sweet. Fracturing Gust. If there are any artifacts and enchantments left, Fracturing Gust, get rid of them. And then Heliod's Intervention. You know, there again, artifacts, enchantments, or to gain twice X life. So let's look at our non-basic lands. Of course, I'm going to start with the Blossoming Sands just because it fits the theme, and we're gaining 1 life when it comes in. And that's the whole reason why I have the Celestia Sanctuary, the bounce land, you know. But then we have Tranquil Expanse, Thriving Heath, Thriving Grove, Vivid Grove, Rogue's Passage, because eventually, after all of this life gain, our commander's going to be large, right? Yeah. Evolving Wilds, Terramorphic Expanse, Command Tower, Selesnya Guildgate, Salt Crusted Step for a little storage action, and then the Blighted Woodland is our last card. So that's our Moon Dancer. Wanting to gain life. And see, that's the thing, though. There's so many good life gain cards that you could actually build this deck and not use any of these 100 and still come up with a really good deck, right? So that is 759. We'll go put 759 on the wall. Trelasarra's done. And that is what we have got for today. So I do appreciate y'all watching, liking, subscribing, all that stuff. And we'll see you tomorrow. But right now, we're going to go ahead and shuffle and cut.